I don't mention African people, except to say that African people do not exist. Africans, Americans, and Asians do not exist. What does exist are white people, non-white people, and white supremacists. That's according to what? Counter-racist logic. I always use that as my base.
Yes, sir.
Counter-racist logic says Africans, Asians, and Americans do not exist, and it's impossible for them to exist in a system of white supremacy. So that brings what? Definitions. What is an American? What is an African? And what is an Asian? I call it the 3 A's, all right? These are terms that are used all the time. Asians, Africans, Americans. What are the definitions for each of these terms or all of these terms collectively, according to logic? Well, first of all, they are people. They are not places. There's no such thing as an African place or an Asian place or an American place. These are concepts. What kind of concept? The concept of what? Of justice. You cannot be an African unless you practice justice. That's impossible. You cannot be an American unless you practice justice. That's impossible. You cannot be an Asian unless you practice justice. You have to practice justice in order to be any one of those three. So justice does not exist because the evidence shows justice doesn't exist in the system of white supremacy, which is a global government. See, we're not talking about places here where people are from. When people ask me where I'm from, I'm saying I tell the truth. And this is the absolute truth. This is the scientific truth. I'm from every place that I have ever been, and I am from every place that I have never been. And this is the kind of answer you give to that question in the code book. This is in the code book. And if you put that to a test, it will always hold up. Everybody is from every place that you have ever been, and you're also, here's the key word, from every place that you have never been. Think about it. You are from every place that you have ever been. Think about it. And you're also from every place that you have never been. There's a blade of grass somewhere. You are from that blade of grass. A blade of grass somewhere in Finland. If there's any grass growing there, and I'm sure there is. Iceland. Well, you are from Iceland. You're from Nova Scotia. These are just places with names. You're from the moon. Why? The moon is there and you're from that moon. You're from it. You say, well, I've never been to the moon. All the same, you're from it. All the more reason why you're from it. You've never been there. And even if you have been there and you leave, you're from the moon. And if you have never been there, you're still from the moon because you've never been there. That's what you call pure science. See, we got to stop getting caught up in these phony words and all these lines on maps that the white supremacists have put there. They don't mean anything. They put lines on maps and they change the maps all the time. So there's no such thing as Africa. Africans are people. Asians are people. Americans are people. But they are also people who practice justice. Otherwise, why be an African if you're not going to practice justice? You can be anything and not practice justice. What is justice? Guaranteeing that a person, every person, or no person is not mistreated. You got to guarantee that. And guaranteeing that the person that needs help the most gets the most constructive help.
Yes.
That's the compensatory definition for justice.
Yeah.
That is not true any place. So you don't have justice any place, so therefore you don't have any people that qualify for the term American, the term Asian, and the term African. And it doesn't make any difference where they have been or where they are going until they practice justice, and you have justice on this entire planet, then you don't qualify for any of these terms. So what do you qualify for? Well, within a racial context, you qualify to be a white supremacist or a victim of white supremacists. And that's it. Doesn't make any difference what your credentials are otherwise. Now you have some white people who are not white supremacists, but they are people who are not qualified to be white supremacists because they're not able to be.
Mm-hmm.
All right? And that would include white people, people with white skins, who are what you might call senile to the extent that they cannot tell one color from another. And that would include white babies. See, if you're going to use logic, you cannot include a white baby, a newborn baby, who is white, in the white supremacist category. Because the baby is not able to tell one color from another.
Yes,
in order to be a white supremacist, you have to be able to tell your colors. Otherwise, you're out of business as being white supremacist.
Mm-hmm.
All right? You may have been one 10 years ago, but if you're in a car accident and your brain was damaged to the extent you can't tell one color from another, you're no longer a white supremacist, even though 10 years ago you were going around telling everybody that that's what you were. But you have to be able to know one color from another. That's absolute, or it's impossible for you to practice white supremacy.